Welcome to the fourth in our series of daily blogs coming from John's Gospel. Today we're looking at chapter 6 verses 1 to 15, the feeding of the 5,000. This is the fourth of the signs pointing to who Jesus is. And interestingly, it's the only miracle that appears in all four Gospels. So we know Jesus had recently crossed over the Sea of Galilee. He was in the area of the town of Bethsaida. We also know from Mark's Gospel account that this was not long after John the Baptist had been beheaded by Herod. So we could have forgiven the disciples and Jesus at this point for wanting some respite. But Jesus was being followed by 5,000 men, even more when you count in women and children. And Jesus took pity on them. And we know from Luke's Gospel that Jesus taught that day and that Jesus performed miracles and many people were healed. So at this point in time, the people of Israel, they were looking for a leader. They were looking for hope and direction. And as the shepherd that Jesus is, he showed them empathy. In Ezekiel 34 in the Old Testament, the Lord warns of shepherds and leaders of Israel feeding themselves, drinking milk, wearing wool and butchering the best animals for themselves. And we can think of Herod and the excesses that he was living and the poverty that was around him and his people. But then there was Jesus, the living embodiment of Psalm 23, resting his sheep in green pastures. We know this was around the time of Passover. We could draw parallels with Exodus. Moses was a leader, God's provision for the people during that time in the Old Testament. But what about today? People are starving across the world today. Where's today's miracle? Where's Jesus today? Let's look a little bit closer at this story and where Jesus is. So Jesus asked Philip to get bread, and Philip became pragmatic, thought to himself, it's going to take half a year's salary to feed these people. And even if we had that money, Jesus, where are we going to source the bread from? Tesco's Express doesn't get a delivery till tomorrow. Philip was limiting himself. He was looking at the here and now and not looking at the bigger picture. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, he said, there's a young boy here with 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. Now we know that barley bread was a very poor food, so this boy was likely from a poor family. But he was willing to provide those 5 loaves to Jesus, that small offering. So Jesus broke the bread and he gave thanks. And everyone was fed. And there were 12 baskets of broken pieces left over. And the boy no doubt went home with more than he started. So God didn't have much to work with. And he didn't need anything. He could have fed those people from nothing. But Jesus asked something small to be brought by the disciples, a show of faith. So what of poverty and hunger today? As individuals, can we solve this problem? It's a tough one. Maybe we can. Maybe each of us has a barley loaf that we can offer to God, some hospitality. And in return, maybe God can perform miracles and can give us more than we started with. In Proverbs 11:24, it says, there is one who scatters yet increases more, one who holds tight but leads to poverty. So what of Jesus? We know in later passages that the people start to seek out Jesus and the sustenance and to be fed. And Jesus draws parallels between himself and the bread he fed them. Later in chapter 6, Jesus tells them, Moses didn't feed you, my Father fed you. The true bread of God is the one who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. I am the bread of life. I'll leave you with this thought. What small offering can you bring Jesus today? Thank you for listening.